Hello?
Yeah.
Hi. Okay.
Maybe get a little bit closer, but I could hear you. I'm not reading your whole bio, by the way, because we don't have enough time.
Oh, no. Is this good?
So just hit it again and it'll go to. Okay, everybody. Everybody can have a seat. We'll get started on our drum roll. Last Friday of 2023. Just, I have to confess, I also keep a paper calendar besides my digital one. And I've been the last week or so turning the page and going, that's next week. So let me do some announcements here, and then we'll have our speaker come up. So a week from tonight is our people competition projection, and that means that you're already too late if you haven't submitted something, because of all our projections are basically 10 days before. It's the Wednesday of the week before. So that's going to be a people and a projection. And see if I can get my clicker to work. Yeah, you could do lights out. But my clicker's not working. There we go. All right, behave. And then January 12th, it's a Zoom presentation. This is a photographer, J.P. Stones, who's like integrated himself into this Caro country in Mexico, and gotten involved with the indigenous people and done a whole project around how you do photography that way. And then we have a print competition, Nature, January 19th. So those, as long as you're into the clubhouse before 7:30 with your print, you're okay. And along with that, because the judges will be judging that night when you bring them in, we always have some kind of presentation going on. And while that's going on, we're going to have our own Eric Wethington is going to do a talk on cameras, bodies, and lenses. Oh my. So those of you who know him, he works at Dodd, so he's got the latest, greatest understandings. You can tell that camera on the left is probably, he's going to show how to use that one. And then we're going to have January 26th. This is going to be a new thing. Not sure how this is going to go, but it's a mentor and mentee show and tell. We're going to have mentees and mentors come in and share their experiences. We've never done it this way before, but that's going to be on January 26th, and it will be here in the club room. And then our next SIG meeting is going to be January 4th with Dave Bush, as always, and he's going to do concert photography. And I've seen some of his concert photography, and you can imagine that's a really tough way to shoot, low light action and so forth, and a lot of restrictions. So he's going to do a SIG meeting on that, special interest group meeting. And we are on Instagram. I looked at this today, and I have to confess, I haven't put any pictures up, but if you want to put pictures up for our Instagram page, you need to email them to socialmedia@clevelandphoto.org, and then they'll put them up from there. May 3rd, we're going to have a projection phone competition. Yeah, and I don't even want to talk about that anymore. We'll see how that goes. I'm hoping some instruction might happen before then, but I'm not sure. We have an upcoming exhibit at the Beechwood Library. The theme is motion, and it's through Shutter Score, and the deadline for that is the 5th, so that's, I believe, a week from tonight. If you want to get into the exhibit, just as if you were going to upload a projection, go through Shutter Score. This is the big one. We got a cabin fever party. How many people have never been to a cabin fever party before? So there's a few of you. So I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun. It's going to be here in the club room. It's food, prizes, a lot of fun. There's the robbers auction. That's really the highlight of the whole night, is the robbers auction. So if Aunt Matilda gave you a third set of muffin pans, or you got a Ronco slicer, dicer, peeler that you don't want, you bring that wrapped as a gift. Now you might wind up taking home a Ronco slicer peeler because it's a robbers auction. And as always, if you want to look at our online, go to our website up in the upper right-hand corner and click on that link, or you can go directly to YouTube and click on what says live. So that's it for our announcements. So tonight, let me shift gears here. Okay, we have with us Carly Sullens, who's now in St. Louis, and can I say you might be moving? She might be moving back to this area and become a member, and maybe more with that. So I've got like 3 paragraphs here I can read, but I have to tell you that it's the creative advantage, learning to see things differently. She's got initials after her name that I don't know what they stand for, but the important thing to us is she is a certified professional photographer and a world-class master artist. But what I like is, I think she likes teaching other photographers more, well, as much as she does shooting. Which, when you think about we're photographers helping photographers, that she's willing to show her techniques and tools and so forth to help us become better photographers. So with that, Carly?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I wrote some notes down because I had some deep thoughts that I thought I would forget when I saw you, so I might be looking at my notes a little bit here. Um, so I'm Carly. Um, the initials after my name, this year I just became a master photographer, and that is when you do print competition through the Professional Photographers of America. You have to earn so many merits by entering with them. And then I think it's 13 print merits you have to have, and then you have to have 12 education merits to become a master photographer. Become a master artist, same thing, 13 print merits, but those in the artist category are the composites or painterly photographic images. And then certified professional photographers through Professional Photography of America. That's when you have to study a whole bunch and take a test. So, and after the test, there's a second part where you have to get a little wooden man, a white ball, a black Sharpie, and 8 boxes of crayons, and they tell you how to set this up, and you have to learn how to expose the white, the black, the color, and the angle of this little wooden man all at one time. They teach you how to do it in a couple of shots. It took me hundreds. So before I sent it off and then I passed. I sent off the one that I thought would make it, and it did, but it took me a long time to figure out how to get it right. But anyways, that's what that means. I draw my inspiration from a diverse educational background. I always believed art has a power to connect with ourselves and with others. I knew this at a young age. I was always doing some sort of art exploration. Jen and I did art in high school. And then I went on to get a degree when I learned there's actually art therapy out there where you learn how to become a therapist, but instead of just having people talk with you about their issues or how they want to grow, you give them art materials and they could express themselves through art. So it doesn't always have to be verbal. And this is great when sometimes our issues are too big to talk about, or sometimes we're nonverbal, or we just don't know how to articulate it. We can express ourselves in a different way. In that process of understanding art, we have to explore all the art mediums. We have to understand how, if I give you clay, how that's going to evoke emotion. Or if I give you markers, or if I give you a camera, is that going to frustrate you if you're already frustrated? So understanding all the art mediums, I then focus mainly in painting and then in art history. It wasn't until later in my life that I pick up a camera. I think like many women, when we become mothers, cameras come into our hands. We love taking pictures of our kids. That's my story. I became a mom photographer, and eventually people wanted to pay me for my photos. And I kept saying, no, I do this for fun. And then finally I'm like, well, why, if they're gonna offer me money, why not take it? So that's how I became a professional photographer. I have started to bring back my painting into my photography. It just happened natural for me. I tried to be strict photographer over here and strict painter over here, but we're blending those two in post production. That so much so that Luminar is a photo editing software. They now sell my painterly backgrounds and overlays on their marketplace. So that's really great. This remind me at the end, I have Luminar things to give away for winners after this too. So those who want to try it, we could do that. And then for fun, I swim, but I can't just do anything mediocre. I have to become like a U.S. master swimmer. I just started swimming about a couple years ago, and I think the last swim meet I did, we might have made top 10 in the nation in our relay team, not because of me, because my other 3 swimmers were just amazing and they just like let me finish, but that was exciting. I love swimming. So I have a website. Here is where you could find more about me, about my painterly backgrounds, and my digital composite. So your photography, coming back into my art therapy background, has the power to influence and inspire others that leave a lasting impression. Hang on. It has the power to narrate your stories, transport people into your point of view, invite them to see what you're seeing. We can all go to the metro parks, but when you take a picture and you show that to someone, you're now showing them what you just saw, or what you saw last month or years ago. You could even help people feel what you felt in that moment. You capture a wedding and maybe father of the bride's crying with the bride. Now you just evoked emotion in someone by the photo that you took of this moment. You allow people to notice what you take notice. Your work can resonate with others on a profound level. So on my website, I now have a membership where I want to help mentor people be more creative or just be more inspired in their works. I feel sometimes photography can be very lonely and isolating. As big as our world gets with the internet and everything, it feels like we get more and more isolated. So I want to bring people together who want to be creative and want to explore some of these realms together. So tonight we're going to learn how to see things more differently. And how we're going to do that, we're going to look at external inspiration, so inspiration that we find around us. We're also going to look at internal inspiration, identify ourselves in our work. And then after we explore that, I'm going to give you concrete applications that you could actually take with you when you walk out this door and apply it to your work. I hear a lot of people say, I'm not creative. And I see that a lot in the photography community. And as you know, my art background, where I talked about, we learned all the different art materials, I could say photography is the most technical art out there. You have to use your left brain more than any of the other art mediums. If I gave you all clay, you could hold it, you could squeeze it, you could just get into the emotions of that. But if I gave you a camera, all of a sudden you're thinking, what's the lighting in here? What do I have to bring up, my ISO, or do I bring up my shutter speed, or am I, my f-stop? I'm dyslexic, so I don't know if you're bringing that up or down because the numbers change and it takes me a while to figure out. I know if I make the number smaller, the lens gets bigger and then my light comes in more, but is that up or down? I don't know. So why spend time together talking about creativity? Why even look into that? The importance of creativity in photography goes beyond lighting, goes beyond technical skill, goes beyond how you go present your photos, color balance, technique, composition. This is all really important. This is all we need this definitely in our photographic work. But we also need storytelling, subject matter, style, impact, center of interest. This is where the creativity comes from. Yes, please take pictures of my slides. I'm really okay with that. So if I go too fast and you didn't grab something, I'm really okay if you do that. Photography is not just technical. It's just as important to develop your artistry and to know your inspiration. And I kind of like to think about the tripod. You have the photo technique, you have your editing, which is also technical, and then you have what you're focusing on in your subject. But the most important in this photo is the head, what you're thinking, what you're doing. Why are you taking this photo? So with that, we're going to explore our external inspiration. Ansel Adams once said, "You bring the act of photography, all the pictures you have seen, the books you have read, the music you have heard, the people you have loved." So that's all in you, and you're bringing that to your work already, whether you realize it or not. So before introducing myself more with my work, like lots of people do when they present in photography, they show you some of their work. I want to show you some of my inspiration first. So this is not a photographer, this is Andrew Wyeth. He inspires me a lot, and I was very proud of my parents. They had this print hung up in my house. He is an Americana, early 19th century. He is known for his just taking ordinary moments of life in rural and then making it impactful, making it emotive, making us really look at what's happening. Next is a painter, Brad Kunkel. He is current right now. He is known for his gold and silver and contemporary oil paintings. I think I like him because there's so much impact and then also mystery. What's he telling me? What am I receiving from this imagery? And what I see and experience and what you see and experience might be something different. And I think that's kind of neat, like there's a mystery to it. I also like looking at painters. How are they using light and shadow? How are they creating depth? This helps me think as a photographer because I'm one of those photographers that doesn't always see light. I have to work hard to train my eye, to move people, to move subjects, or move myself to get the best lighting. Some people that comes more natural, that's not for me. I see texture, I see color, I see subject first, and then I start seeing lighting. But painting helps me see that better. Brooke Shaden is an American fine art photographer. She was probably one of the first that started being known with composite. That's her. She often uses herself as a subject. I actually went and studied with her, heard her talk. She's amazing. She has a darkness to her imagery. She says she likes to explore death in her themes. I don't like to explore death so much, but I really like that she just owns who she is and what she wants to convey in her art. She kind of has a surrealism to her too. And then Frida Kahlo, a Mexican painter. She was the woman that broke into with the surrealists during that time. Salvador Dali's a surrealist. Degas was her husband. I found her amazing that she just was in pain, and she was in a traumatic bus accident, I think in her early 20s or late teens, I can't remember. She broke her spinal column. She got impaled by a rod through her abdomen. Horrific. She had to lay in bed to heal, and then she would paint upside down in her bed. And I can't imagine, they didn't have opioids like we do now. They probably did, but not as available. They didn't understand pain as much back then. So the amount of pain she was in, and she just painted that. She's the one that does a lot of self-portraits. So now I'm going to show you some of my work and see if you can see some of those influences through that. And this is a photo that I took, and then I edited it, and then I always take it, I'm going to do more editing, and then I started digitally drawing on it and doodling on it, and it just is a process for me. This is, it's not in-camera motion blur, it's Photoshop motion blur, like blurring photos together and blurring lines together and then adding layers and then changing the opacity. And a lot of times I don't know where things are going to go until I start getting there, and then the process is telling me, ooh, I like that. Oh, I like the shift. Oh no, what did I just do? Let's go back. So kind of enjoy that. Exploring the surrealism. And this one, through Professional Photographers of America, just made top 32 in the category, and they're going to judge it against the other top 32, and it's going to be like basketball brackets, imaging, the end of January. So we'll see how far it goes. It's okay if it doesn't go too far, because I love this image as it is, and I'm okay if it goes far or if it doesn't. This is a composite. I know there's composite artists around here. I don't know if you're here in the room or not. I know I judged once, and you guys have amazing composite artists. So those who like to do composites, keep at it. I know they're hard, but they can really tell a story and convey things that you can't always capture in the moment with your camera, or bring people into another world with you. Been kind of playing with lines a lot lately. And this one made a full page in Professional Photographers of America magazine, which is really hard. You can't even submit to that magazine. I had no clue. Like, someone just took a picture of it one day because they got their magazine first. So our mail's always slow. And they're like, look, and I'm like, I didn't know that was going to happen. So this I did when the Ukraine war broke out. And I remember having it on the background. I was just crying and feeling really sad about what was happening. And I started thinking about the experience. And in history, we always learn about the male experience. The men go off the war, the men fight, our brothers die, and that's horrific, sad, and our fathers. But for that day, I was thinking about the women, these women having to say goodbye, not knowing they're ever going to see the men, having to take these children, probably have to say goodbye to your pets. They're not coming. And I thought about practical stuff, like what if they have diabetes, like insulin, like all this stuff, and I just felt this emotional pull. And I remember just pulling my pixels and painting it digitally like that. So I want to unpack this one a little bit more. This is another composite, adding different pictures together to create my own surreal world. And then I realized why I made this while I was here this week. This is Cleveland. Like, this is what I'm familiar with. And, I didn't realize it's not always like this in other places in the country. You have to get sunlight more than like 10 minutes of the day. But this is what it feels like. And I remember my mentor looked at this. He's like, you just hit a grand slam. You have to come up with a great title for this. Because some print competitions, you have to have the title. And he goes, what does it remind you of? And I said, nutmeg. And he looked at me. Well, he didn't look at me because we're texting. And he's like, what? And I go, doesn't that home feel like you walk in and it smells like nutmeg and all those nice spices around the holidays? And he's like, no, that's not a good title. So, but I came up with First Light of Day because you can see, it's kind of hard with all the lights on, but there's one light in that window. Like maybe they're just waking up and this is what their day is starting, that house drawing you in. And now you can see how those influences in my life help feed what I create. Now, I don't have these influences up all around me where I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, I want to create something similar to that. I do have my influences. I have folders and things to go and look at when I just don't feel creative or inspired, and I'm kind of flip through books and stuff. But there's no doubt that what I see and what I put around me is influencing my work. The truth is, it's influencing your work too. The people you hang out with, what you're looking on Instagram, what you look on Pinterest. It's just like how we feed our bodies. If we feed ourselves with good food, we feel better. If we feed ourselves with images that are going to help us digest and then create, it's going to help us put the work that we're meant to put out there. So inspiration origin, find and know what your inspiration is. And how you know that is begin to notice what inspires you. Begin when you walk past these walls, what images are gravitating towards you? What gravitates you might be different what gravitates towards me. And what gravitates towards you now might be different in 5 years from now. I did not like architect photography for the longest time. I don't know why, because I like softer things and painterly things. But now I know how hard it is and how hard it is to get your lines straight and look at things that way, and that I don't see that when I walk, but other people are seeing shapes and things really intrigues me. Now I love it. But that 5 years ago, I wouldn't been interested in it. Now I'd be like, yeah, let's really go explore this. I want to explore this other realm that really interests me because I want to know how to see this. So be open for your inspirations to change because they will pull you. So how do you do that? You start by paying attention to what you pay attention to. It sounds simple, but once you start taking notice of like, I really like painterly stuff. Maybe you're really drawn to that. Maybe you're really drawn to Rembrandt style with that Rembrandt lighting. Maybe you like Rembrandt lighting, but you don't like the painterly stuff. You just want to capture it in camera because that's what's important to you. Then you're going to need to find window light. And maybe not use off-camera flash because Rembrandt didn't. He knew when that light was shining in that window. Like he knew the time of day he needed to paint and have that. And then when it wasn't that, he wasn't painting. So really look at your inspirations and really dissect what are they doing to create the lighting, to create the posing, to create the texture, or the edit. Is it dark and gritty or is it light and bright? What are they doing? And then once you start dissecting that, you can start applying it to your work. Creativity is not an output. We kept thinking like, I have to sit here, I have to do something, I have to be creative, I get it from inside me out. First, creativity is an input. It's when you breathe in. And I spend so much time swimming, breathing is so important. I didn't realize how important it is until when your face is in the water and you can't breathe. But But you have to breathe in. When I dive off the blocks, I have to take that breath in first. And that's what we have to do. We have to be okay breathing in and looking at our inspirations and collecting them and allowing them to just absorb with us. And give yourself really permission to dig in and see. It's not just artists, it's just not just photographs, it's also other subjects that light you up. You might also like cooking, you might also like knitting, you might also like gardening, you might also like sports or concerts or music. All this is part of your repertoire, which is a great word in dance, putting things together to make the movements. That's all part of the clues of who you are as a creator. Did you know Klemt's father was a gold engraver? So he also did The Kiss, which is probably one of his famous paintings. But can you imagine being a little kid growing up with a gold engraver and seeing that speck of gold off in the dust in window light and just thinking one day, what happens if I just mix this a little bit with my paint? And now we have a masterful painter in the Art Deco era. Our inspirations are all around us. They come from our families, they come from our culture, they come with our upbringing, they come from what we see. Now we're going to talk about the scary stuff, the internal inspirations. I'm just kidding, it's not scary. Each time we create, we have an opportunity to identify ourselves in our work. It gives our work direction and it personalizes our artistry. The truth is, if I give us all the same camera, which will be Sony's, if I give us all the same lenses, and we all photograph the same thing, something's going to be different for every person. It's just how we see and explore things. Have you ever asked yourself how you want your photo to feel, not just how you want it to look like? Start becoming aware of what you personally bring to your photography. I bet you guys know where that tree is. People in St. Louis didn't know. They're like, oh, that's neat. Where? But yeah, that's my sister's favorite tree. It's also mine, but she covered it first. But try to imprint your photography not only with technique, but also parts of who you are. So parts of me was, I'm cold. It's not this cold in St. Louis, but I want to be out there photographing this. This was getting up at 6, driving down to Edgewater, being there and wanting that leading lines. But for me was also, that moss captured my eye so much. And then in the post-editing was showing that even when it's cold and dark, icy, you can't climb on these rocks, growth still happens. And that's why I upped the green in post-editing, because of course it doesn't really look like that at that moment. But for me, it was wanting to imprint myself as showing that growth can still happen when it's cold. When you share your most intense feelings creatively and symbolically with your work will create more impact with the viewer. You may not got hit with that moss or growth or something of the story that I was trying to tell, but you do get hit with something. So this is a recent image composite that I recently did, and we're going to talk more about this. When you look at this image, what descriptive words come to your mind? This is where we participate as a group. Airy. I'm sorry. Surreal. Ethereal. Was that the word? Clean. Peaceful. Legs? Yeah. Light, yeah. Anybody else? Wow, these are good words. I should have you all help me prepare. Your experiences and characteristics make you unique. They are essential to the fold within your creativity. We do not copy from others what is innately ours. This is a stock image. So in print competition, and some of them I know you could use stock images. I I had a deadline. I had to get something done, and I think I had a week left. And I knew I could take the stock image and I can make it painterly. Continue playing with the pixels, maybe play with this flower more, maybe drip it on her, something. Something grabbed me from this image that I thought, hey, this could make a really cool artist image. Then, for some reason, I flipped it. I can't remember why. I probably was thinking, what if I flipped it? The flower didn't make sense in the upper right, so I just used the tool to get rid of that flower and have her like this. Then I thought, she's painted white, reminded me of porcelain paints. The porcelain plates with the blue my grandma had when I was growing up. So I found like a dragon blue overlay to put on her thigh, kind of like a tattoo. Thought, wow, this is really going somewhere. This is really cool. And then I thought, if she's a plate, what if she was broken? And what if she was healed with gold? Which is kintsugi, did I say that right? Is the art repairing broken pottery and joining it with gold. And then that philosophy, they believe it's stronger than before and even more beautiful. So then I thought, well, if she's like that and I took the blue away, I hear the judges in my head. They'll be like, why is she just floating? So I'm like, well, she probably needs a tree to lean against. So I put a tree in. And then I thought, this tree looks like she's growing into it, or maybe she's growing out of it. But I thought maybe that tree was a little too small for her body. And I added this bird in this lower right-hand corner. And then the composite started to grow. Started finding more images, found more birch trees, more blue plate things. She needed roots. And it came out, she healed her scars in golden growth. This image, is about kind of the hurt that we feel in life. We don't get through life unscathed. We all have scars. Some of it's on the outside, some of ours are on the inside. And sometimes when we can process and explore those hurt areas, eventually we can grow from it. And eventually we can heal. And eventually it didn't really hurt us so bad in a point that it can also make us beautiful. When a photographer invests themselves in their subject matter, a unique authenticity emerges. It's not just about capturing an image, it's about conveying a profound connection, a shared experience between the creator and the observed. So it started from there and it ended up here. Photography reaches a heightened level of profundity when you sense the photographer's genuine investment and emotional connection to the subject, intertwining it with their personal narrative. It is in these moments that photography truly resonates. If you want to be more daring and more innovative as a photographer, you need to reach within, explore your creative realm, your life stories, be bold, curious, and believe in your visual narrative. Your images need to be told and seen foremost for yourself. Your work will determine your audience. Now, I know you're a great photography club. I see amazing photos, and you're looking at my stuff and be like, that's not photography, that's composite work. I do photography too. I don't have them in the slideshow. But I think in the past 2 years, I really sat with myself and thought, what kind of art do I want to create? What kind of photography do I want to create? And I love composite work. I love creating these other worlds. And I felt there wasn't a place for me. Like, who is that? Like, I don't really fit in the photography world then, but they're not over here in the painter people because I use Photoshop and use photos. So where do I lie? And I decided that day it doesn't matter because this is the work I want to do. And once I started doing this work, and once I started believing in my work and just keep going with what I needed to create, that's when my work started to take notice. And then here are my influences that we talked again. So you can kind of see color tonality, Frida with the pain, one subject, Brooke telling you a story, a little surreal. And when you start seeing these influences and it intertwines with my own personal narrative, it starts creating my own story. Thank you. Appreciate that. Photography can be a bridge for the most legitimate and beautiful exchanges. Images have the powers to surpass verbal language and connect us deeply and intimately with ourselves and others. I don't need to know English. I don't need to know Spanish. I don't need to know where you took that photo, what language you speak. When I see your image, I'm connected with it. We don't even have to have a verbal exchange. So internal inspiration, how do we do that? First, have a personal connection to what you photograph and create. I know that sounds simple. When I started in photography and learning it and wanted to make it a business, people kept telling me, there's money in weddings. I'm like, okay, I want to make money. I hate shooting weddings. I did that for a little bit and I'm like, this is hard work. You're on your feet for 10 days, or 10 hours, sorry, feels like 10 days. Unless it's an Indian wedding, then you're there for days. And that's when I stopped being a wedding photographer after an Indian wedding. I was just exhausted. I didn't have a personal connection with that. I didn't want to be so physically demanded and having to produce images all day. I'm more thoughtful, I'm more process oriented. Some of these works take me weeks. For some people, they're like, whoa, I just want to take the picture in that moment, maybe do a little editing and I'm done. And that's okay. I mean, we have a whole range. But find what really connects with you and how you want to create. If you don't want to photograph flowers, don't photograph flowers. Find what you love. If you love street photography, you want to explore that, then go down in the streets and go start exploring that. And your work will start, that energy in your work and what you're putting in, people will pick up on that. Tell your story. Something inside of you is always telling a story. This is when you get to breathe out. Like in swimming, when my head's in the water, if I am not breathing out, when I turn my head to take that breath and that one stroke that I get, if I choose to breathe out during then and not breathe in, I'm all messed up. I have to breathe out in the water. I have to make bubbles. You have to breathe out into your art, a part of you. For me, with a tree over there at Edgewater and that moss, so much of my life story it's been some hard moments. And now it's like, I want to see growth. I want to have that underdog. I want to show people that even in the hard, there's still beauty. There's still movement. There's still progression. We're still in this together. And then observe your life and your life story. This has rich source of gems. It doesn't always have to be the hard stuff. I mean, if you love cooking, flour can be a beautiful thing to photograph in the sunlight. There's moments of the egg cracked on the floor before cleaning it up. Go grab your camera. So how do we apply these things? Perhaps this is the place to let go of who you think you should be and to be the photographer you are meant to be. That's the day I decided, if I don't fit in this realm of photographers, That's okay. I'm going to do what I need to do and kind of explore where that goes. So, our external inspiration key takeaways. Start by creating your own gallery or your own space of inspiration and influences. It could be a corner in your room, it could be a binder, it could be a folder on your computer. So I have a folder on my desktop called Inspiration. If it gets too big, do Inspiration 2024, Inspiration 2023. And then when you see something, take a screenshot of it, download that image, and throw it in there. That way, when you're like, I want to do something I don't want to do today, start looking at these folders. On your phone, you could take screenshots of what you're looking at if you're on Pinterest or Instagram, and then categorize that. Some phones, I know Apple does, I don't know if Google, that you can make a folder called Inspiration and start putting them in there. That way, when you need to be inspired, you can start finding what's gravitating. I guarantee once you start collecting these, you're going to start seeing a theme through your imagery that is drawing you. These are creative treasures, and they're waiting for you to discover and also rediscover them again and again. You know it's an inspiration for you when you don't get tired of seeing it. When I look at the inspirations I showed you in the beginning, I don't get tired of seeing their work at all. I just love looking at it. And every time I go back, I'm seeing something else. I'm like, wow, look at that little subtle thing that I didn't notice before. Look for things you could adapt and apply to your own work and life as a photographer. And again, it doesn't always come from photographs. Sometimes you could be driving and you're hearing an audible book or a podcast and they say something like, whoa, that just gave me this idea or this image. Write it down when you stop or do a voice memo to yourself. Because if you don't, it goes away. So you have to jot these down. It could come from songs, it could come from song lyrics, it can come from moments or encounters, or you go to a coffee house and you see a mom with a little child and you remember your kids. Maybe that's something that you want to focus on in your photography, family bonding, mother and children. When we were in the coffee house, I saw this mom nursing. I'm like, oh, I would love to photograph that. You know, maybe move her to the window light. And what would that be like? What would an image be like of a mom nursing in a coffee house on a busy area? So build your library, have sketchbooks, jot your thoughts down, have digital footprints of them, book phrases, song lyrics, quotes, sketches, colors. Sometimes it's texture. Sometimes I look at wallpaper. I'm watching a home improvement show and I'm like, that wallpaper is really cool. You know, and I'm sure it's like filed in my head when I create that porcelain on that leg, like the patterns really interest me. They are fleeting, they will go away. We have to nestle them and we have to grow them. Don't be afraid to make it personal. This is another composite. It's called My Outer Critic. Because she's kind of, looking out, kind of a bitchy face. But the painter girl's like, I got this. We don't need an outer critic today. She's on the outside. And our internal inspiration takeaways. Cultivate a connection to your stories. Give yourself permission to express parts of yourself in what you photograph. Why are you taking this photo? We share our photos with other people. We want people to see our work. If not, why are we taking them? So why do we want people to see and invest in what we see, what we feel, what we notice? Develop your visual language. Bring people into your world. Here's a great little exercise. How are we on time? Okay. Do you guys want to do this real quick? Do you have pen and paper? Or you can do some deep thought or write it on your phone. So the first question is, I feel most alive when I photograph. I feel most alive when I photograph. Could be how I do it, sure. Like I feel most alive when I photograph something with technical lighting. I love technique. I feel most alive when I photograph something simple, but I love to edit and make it into something completely else. Whenever blank comes my way, I'm over the moon excited to photograph it. Another great question to ask yourself is, lots of people react to my photographs when they see when you start showing your work to other people and you start noticing how people are reacting to the same photos, you know you're onto something. If I had to wake up every day and photograph blank, I would do so happily for the rest of my life. And this isn't meant to put you in a box. Like, you don't have to say portraits or necessarily flowers. Maybe if I wake up every day and photograph something new, something challenging, something colorful. I want to be known as a photographer for. And again, it doesn't have to be a subject matter. It could be, I want to be known as a photographer for creating emotional impact, for inspiring, for my technical skills. Does anyone want to talk a little bit about what this reflection was like for them? Anything popped in your head? That's okay. Nice. Did everyone hear him?
Yeah, if we're going to do more audience participation, I'm going to pass the mic around.
Oh,
if we're going to have
good. You
that.
could be my
Okay.
Oprah.
So if you want to, yeah, if you want to speak, raise your hand. I'll get a mic to you.
I think it's okay if some of these questions stump you. It's okay, especially if you're starting out in photography or you haven't found like a niche yet. You don't have to find a niche, but just allow yourself to realize certain things are going to gravitate towards you. You might love storms. You might say, like, "Oh my gosh, it's foggy." For me, it's like, it's foggy. I want to be in my pajamas and have my hot tea and be all cozy. I don't want to go out in the cold. That's okay. Our our direction's going to pull us, and we just need to be aware of listening to those little nuances that are saying, this is the direction, this is something you should explore. And you could explore it and say, this was wrong, I don't like this, and that's okay too. But it's just giving us a place to try things out. Anyone else want to say anything on this?
The people at home that can't hear us.
My heart started to skip a beat when I was reading some of these sentences. I love photographing. A lot of my friends out at Hale Farm, they dressed up in their costumes. The light out there is spectacular. I do natural light photography, and the backgrounds, the light. I just can't wait to get out there. And just reading the sentences up here, it's Hale Farm is now closed for the season, but it just makes me anticipate going out there again in the spring and in the summer. And just reading your sentences up here just filled me with happiness, because I can't wait to get out there again and do that again.
Good.
So
Good. And then now, between the time in spring, is looking at imagery that's similar to that, like, and then start dissecting in the head, where are they placing the subject? What is the lighting doing? How can I bring the texture? What stories do I want to tell?
I have thousands of pictures, literally. I do
Oh.
their photography. And
Okay.
I go back over and over and over the photographs again, and looking at some of your images that you've used some of the composites with it. And all these ideas started coming to mind, like, oh, I can use this one. There's one picture that I have in mind right now that I could see using some of your techniques on that. It would be just gorgeous. So this is very inspirational, and I
Good.
really appreciate you coming today.
Thank you.
Tonight.
Hang on.
In regards to composites, and again, I admire what you've done here, and I truly admire those within our club who can do composites. I wouldn't even know how to begin. So, is there a training technique? Is there a way to go about learning composites? Is it something in your program where you or people like you teach composites?
Yes. You can go to my website, carlysullens.com. I have the painterly backgrounds and the overlays, and I try to simplify the whole process and create videos. Like I teach worldwide on Zoom. I'm happy to help. We could even set up another class for composite photography, very simple. The way AI and the new editing software is getting a lot easier to cut out a subject, and blending things and making sure the colors are matching, make sure the lighting, there's a lot to think about. You can't just throw a person in the background. The colors of both have to match. The lighting has to match both. The perspective, you can't make a big person. When I put that tree with her, I realized right away that tree's too small. She looks huge against this little tree, so I had to change that up. I want to move to Cleveland, yes.
I appreciate what you're saying about your inspiration and some other artists. So I like certain artists. I like Ansel Kiefer. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but it's very dark and edgy, and so I like that style. I think I carry that over sometimes in the photography. So I like a lot of black and white, very high contrasty black
Yes.
and white, and so I can see that, kind of coming over from some of the. If I go to a city and I know there's a Kiefer at the museum there, I mean, that's where I head right away, is just go see that Kiefer. There's some great Kiefers. There's one at the Cleveland Museum of Art that
Okay.
I just, every time I go there, I've got to go see that picture again,
I'll
because I
definitely have
love
to
it
look
so
'em up.
much.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that dark, edgy, and the contrast of the shadows
Yeah.
and the light. I mean, that will carry over into
Yeah.
your work.
Yeah.
So are we in a question period, or
I think so. I think we're at near
do
the
you
end.
want to wait?
Oh, yeah, this is my last slide. Hold on. I have one more great thought, and then we'll get into
Okay.
questions. Okay. And this is actually one of my photos. So, see, I do real photography. This was, we were walking, my daughter is looking at colleges, and we were in Boston, and she was just walking by, and they were getting ready for dining later, and I just snapped that photo without her really knowing, because she's a teenager and doesn't like me taking photos right now. But I just love that, is she invited into that table? Is she not allowed into the table? Are we going to go sit and dine, or we are on the outside looking in? It allows both the stories being told at the same time. The intersection of personal inspiration and authentic self-expression elevates photography to form of storytelling that transcends the boundaries of a static image. It transforms the medium into a living, breathing reflection of the human experience. The image is just not an external capture, but a piece of the photographer's soul. It's not just about capturing an image, it's about conveying a connection, a shared experience between the creator and the observed. The viewer, in turn, can sense the depth of this connection and is invited to partake in the photographer's journey, experiencing the narrative unfolding within the photography, in the photograph. The image now lives beyond the creator. This is why focusing on the creativity is just as important as the technical. And when you can put those two together, you can create impact with your images. Questions?
Yes, I have a question. You showed us the one image, and it had something to do, your title, with growth and
Golden growth?
gold, yes. And you showed us different layers that you used
Yep.
in creation of that image. Are
This,
are the layers photographs that you took?
because I think I did this in winter, like, when I wasn't in Colorado, I used stocked images. So I went to Pexel, Adobe Stock, looking for images. Sometimes finding the images that you need takes a long time. Some of my composites, all my photographs, some of them is stock imagery because I don't have an aspen forest near me. I would love to go photograph it, but sometimes what makes stock images available and good is that I can't be in the places in the world that I have in my mind that I want to create.
So I'm not familiar with stock images. Do you purchase stock images? How does that work?
Yeah, some of them you can purchase, some of them, a lot of them are free. So Pexel, PEXELS.com is a free one. Unsplash, UNSPLASH.com, you can get free. And when free, I mean you have creative rights to do what you want with those photos. I can now sell this. They're saying, if I download this free, I also have creative rights to create something with it. As long as I'm not selling their photo or putting in print competition claiming it's mine, I can create something with it. Some of the photos you want aren't free and you can pay for it too. And it could be from a couple dollars up to $100 or more, depending on the image and the creator who photographed it.
So a lot of the images that you shared with us had women, girls, or women in them. So you didn't hire models, but
Some
you,
of them are. This one in particular was a stock photo. But some of the other women, I do have models. And the models who work with me come back. They're always willing to come back and work with me. Because I take my time with them and I don't rush them and I make sure they're always comfortable and always, if they ever have a limitation, I know the limitations ahead of time and make sure I know their comfort zone before we even begin.
Thanks. I was just wondering where do you go to find like new inspiration? So you obviously you kind of go, you have your folders and everything, but when you're looking at those, I know you're always still want to look at them, but do you just go to galleries or there's new exhibits at your local art museum or you look at it on Google? I'm not sure. Like, how do you find those new artists that inspire you?
Great question. I'm someone that gets overwhelmed with social media, so I know for myself, if I do too much looking at imagery, it almost does the opposite for me. It shuts my brain down and I'm no longer inspired. So I allow myself a little bit time in the morning to look at Pinterest. And then if I don't see anything that day, I'm done. For me, because of my art background, art inspires me and I pull it into my photography. So going to art fairs, Ann Arbor has an amazing one. St. Louis has one. I'm sure you guys, I don't know where they are. art fairs, just walking, and then there's photography there, there's painting, there's ceramics, there's so much different art to look at that, and then I pick up the artist cards that I'm really interested in, so I can go back to their website and revisit. And I don't need a whole bunch, I just get a few that I could sit with, and that will inspire me for months. Also, I get inspired by other photographers. Like, let's go out and photograph today. Let's go do a photo walk together. And then I'm always amazed when I'm just walking and talking, and I'm like, where's my person? And I'm like, oh, you saw something? I didn't see that. And then you start seeing what they're seeing, and you're showing them something different. It's always good to have that energy together.
You mentioned earlier Luminar, but
Yeah.
can you run down the various software programs that you use, such as Photoshop, obviously, but anything else? Anything like Greater Than Gatsby or some of those?
I don't know that one. Okay, so Photoshop was my first, Adobe and Lightroom. And then I used Topaz Labs, so you could put the picture in Topaz. I think they're changing it now. I don't know if they still have the artist thing. And you could press a button and say, I want this to look impressionistic, or I want this to look like Rembrandt. And they would do you press a button, it changes the photo into a painting like that instantly. And I was amazed and like, wow, look what I just did. And then I realized I didn't do anything. The computer did that. So then I decided I want to learn how the computer did this, and I want to be able to do this out myself and do every little painstaking stroke myself. So that's when I learned how to do that in Photoshop, how to blend my pixels with a digital brush. And depending on the brush you choose, you can get a different style of paint effect on that digital. You can make it soft and runny. I can make it sharp and edgy and chiseled looking. And then I realized if I start throwing overlays in it, so something painterly, and change the opacity over it, I'm now blending my photo with this painting. Wow, that's phenomenal. And that's like a lot less work. And I can get a pretty close end result. And then I get to choose how much of that opacity, how much of my photo I'm bringing in, how much of that painterly background I'm bringing in, and just playing with that juxtaposition. So Luminar, I use Photoshop, those and Lightroom are the three I use mainly. I have used Topaz. I have used Corel Painter for those around in the 90s when that came out. That was the first one that really allowed you to digitally paint. You could put a blank canvas on Corel and paint like a painter would, like dip in your paint reservoir and see the digital paint. But then I found out you could throw a photo in and it could pull the color of the pixels there, so you're not having to figure out how to mix colors. And that's the hardest part of painting, is like, how do I choose to mix the colors and paint? When you have a ready-made image there and it's already, the colors are there and you just get to play with a brush, and drawing the figure is really, really hard. And I think this is why I love this style, because when I did figure drawing, my body proportions were always off. But now with a photograph, she's all right. And I just have to figure out how I want to make her creative and just get in the fun of painting. So I don't use Corel anymore because it crashes all the time. I don't know if they update it, and it's kind of expensive. I think that one's like $500. Adobe is getting expensive now with their monthly membership, but I do like Luminar. It's, for those who feel like Photoshop is too much to take in, Luminar has sliders that uses AI, and Photoshop's getting there to make it easier, but it's quicker. I can get the results quicker with Luminar. Yes.
I want to go back where I was earlier.
Yes.
In the pictures, images that you showed us this evening, is there one that you used a model?
Yes. Okay. Let's go.
Can you go back to that one and
Well,
then
here's
talk a little bit about the process that you used
okay.
once you took the photograph of the model?
Okay, good. This is a photo of my daughter, so we know that one. This was stock. I just, but I'm going to recreate this with a model. I love this so much. I want to recreate this one. These are stock images because I've never been there. But I wanted to play with, I love layers, and I wanted to play with those happy clouds up there, kind of look like a tattoo. So this one actually happened after the girl with the tree. This was like that next one. I love playing with, what if I keep playing with digital lines, these lines, and incorporate them in the art somehow. This, the tree I might have photographed, but this was a tribute after my mom died, and this is called Portal. And it's wanting to reach her through that, and having, I feel birds sometimes help us connect with our loved ones. But it starts with a tree, and then I think about my mom or the news or something, and a lot of times I'm a very process-oriented artist. I think that's why photography is a very ready-made product art medium. You take a photo, you get that product right away. In the art world, for a painting, you are in the process for a long time, and I think that's why I lend myself more to the composite way, because I like the process and I like seeing where things are going to go, even if I don't know where it's going to go. This is a model in studio I took. The backdrop was brown. We put that fluff that you get at Joann Fabrics for pillows. She had most men are like, what is she wearing? This is a cage that women wore under their dresses because to make our hips look big. So that's what she's wearing. And then like the pose of the dancer, I wanted that. And I asked her to put a lot of blush on because I wanted that more Marie Antoinette look. But in post, I started painting this all, and then I was playing with the gold and something else. I'm like, what if I bring gold back in, and had that line and just kept playing with that brush look. This is a photo of a model. She was a high school senior I took. A lot of times when people hire me for seniors, I don't stalk the families. I don't look to see who I'm going to get. And when Morgan stepped out, she was this beautiful redhead, light pale skin, just a beautiful girl. We had lots of fun. She went off to college. When she revisited, I'm like, if you ever just want to photograph, I'll do trade. If you want to start photographing models, there are a lot of people who would just do trade for photos. So you don't have to pay them, they don't have to pay you. They model for you, you could practice, and then you give them the photos edited. And then they get to post it on their Instagram or do what they want. We went down to, in Missouri, they have this place, it's really rocky with the river. We went down there and I brought this dress and I wanted her, the sunlight was backlighting her, and I just kept saying, play with your dress, because that sunlight was coming through. It was just gorgeous. But I took a really bad photo of it. But I loved her pose. I loved the impact it was creating. So I took it into Photoshop and I just started, maybe I could save it. And then I ended up painting it. So that's that one. So we know this one's all composite. We know that's Edgewater. This is ClickCon, which is a great photography conference in Chicago. This year they're going to be in Detroit, which I will encourage you all to go. You have models to choose from. You don't have to be this great professional photographer to attend. It's there to help you practice. And you could have a model and just practice. They had this pool at the Intercontinental Hotel in downtown Chicago. It was built in the 40s maybe. Gorgeous pool. I asked a model if she will work with me. We set it up ahead of time. She's a dancer. She can go on point. And as a swimmer, I just wanted to play with water. She eventually got in the water for me in her dance outfit and just had that fabric all around her, which is beautiful. But before I put her in the water, I'm like, can you just touch the water and play with it? And then because I sell my painterly backgrounds on Luminar, I have to show them my before and afters, so I'm always grabbing photos. And then I just added some of the painterly background to this, because in the background was like, save people kind of buoy thing we don't need in our photos, but I can't take it off the wall, so I thought if I could distress that and just focus on her in that moment when you touch water, what's that like? What's that moment like? Click on, yep. Yeah, CLICCON.US is their website. 3-day photo conference. You could add on before or after classes. If you want to know editing, they have editing classes. If you want to know portrait, if you want to do street photography, if you don't know what you want, they have like 8 or 10 classes happening in each slot that you could sign up and just explore different things. If you want to venture in wedding photography, they'll have people dressed as bride and groom that you could learn to take photos of. They actually give them like a bouquet too. Like they think of everything. Oh, this is Ulysses Grant grew up in St. Louis apparently. His house is there. There's Grant's farm, which is wonderful. This is not his house. This is a servant's house in the back, which I loved more visiting because I love the texture. I love the lighting. I love that it was, I don't know, more real, more authentic. This is a friend of mine's daughter who wanted to get in modeling. She actually was on a Hallmark commercial last winter. But I brought her here and I asked her to sit there, and when you're looking out the window, I really get into storytelling. I'm like, just think that your pa's coming home and look out the window. What's that like? So this bicycle is a stock image, but I created this surreal world. This is a model I took with a friend at her studio. And then that was in the phase where I kept blending the pixels down and kept that rainy kind of look. That was my blending pixel down phase. So that kind of continued there. This was all pretty much stock images, but really reminds me of Olmsted Falls, like that flat, even though we never had a lake, but. Stock image, but totally rechanged this image, adding all the different colors and textures. This is different buildings I took up in St. Charles. Is a historic suburb of St. Louis. They have the old Brook Street still. I decided to go Easter Sunday. I figured no one's going to be in this town. Like, I've been wanting to photograph these buildings for a long time, but there's always cars parked in the street and there's always people around. So I figured if I can go on a holiday, maybe no one will be out. And I went out and photographed these buildings. Now, they're not all like this. I photographed a building, drove down, photographed another building, came back, composite those buildings together. I had to make sure my lines were straight because of camera lens, what's that called? Distortion, thank you. Had to fix all that, and then I played with motion blur in Photoshop and put them together. I photographed a lake that wasn't part of this either, added that to the bottom, then flipped the layer to make the reflection. So, and then when I was doing the lines with the motion blur, I went back in and erased and allowed some of the windows and doors to come back underneath it. So I duplicate my layers and then erase. Yes.
Just kind of a real quick question. How much do you see in your head before you start the project, and how much evolves from some inspirational image that you then build on?
I think when I'm working with a live model, I try to be in the moment with the person because I believe we are co-creating this image together, and I want them to be as comfortable with me. And I'm always thinking of posing. I'm always thinking about lighting. I'm always making sure they're comfortable, and then what kind of story we're trying to tell. I love the ethereal. Some people said I love women in flowy dresses. So I'm always thinking when you're lifting your dress, can you make sure your hand, like I want you to concentrate on your hand. I want you to concentrate on the elongated spine. I want you, when you're looking up, I want you to think of something. I don't want this blank face. Maybe think of something really peaceful in your life. What could that be? Is there music I can play for you? Once I get those images back in, I'll look and see in a more technical mind frame, did I crop her wrong at some joints? Is her body weird or contorted? Does she look elegant enough? And then from those photos, I'll star them in Lightroom so then I can find my best. And then I'll see, do I want to keep this as a photo, or do I want to make it black and white, or do I want to take it to a whole nother place? So, but that doesn't happen until after I get back and start editing. I don't always have that when I'm working with a model. This one, I wanted to play with leading lines. I knew I wanted to do that. So when I went out and took buildings, I thought, I might need a variety of colors of different buildings. Maybe I should go look for blue. And in my eye, I kept thinking, maybe I should find a green one. I don't think I found a green one. So that, I kind of knew I wanted to play with lines, but I didn't know it was going to have a reflection. I didn't know it was going to evolve to this. Kind of knew I was going to play with lines, but I didn't know how far it would go. This building didn't have 3 windows up. It's actually the same window. I just copied up. I thought, 3 is a good number in art. I need to have 3. And visually, if you're coming this way, it stops your eye. This is why I have this happening here, because it's bringing your eye back into the image. Okay. This is all images I took. She's actually on the rocks out in Huntington. I took her out there and had her lift the ladder. It was a gray day. Couldn't really bring lighting out for her because no one wants to walk in water and hold lighting up. This is wildflowers, somewhere rural Missouri. I think the sky is familiar. This is Cleveland sky. And these birds are Cleveland birds. I just started compositing this. I extracted her out of those rocks at Huntington. She had that pink kind of dress on, or skirt. And then I thought, oh, I remember those fields. Now these fields and her skirt did not match, but I know I can match it in post-production. I know I can bring up my purples or bring down my pinks. And then I started blending. This happened after that building with the lines. So I knew how to do that already, but I just did it a little subtly, and then brought the sky in, and then added the birds. And did all the good composite things. Horizon lines in the lower third. She's in the lower right-hand corner. She's not in the middle. I made sure she has a negative space. Hey, this isn't part of my image. That's this thing on the screen. She has a negative space. Can she go into that space? Because I'm giving you, the viewer, where is she going? Is she going up? Did she come down? What's happening? This is all stock images. This is a lot of stock images. I think I was trying to see how many images can I put together. I think I was feeling a little masochistic this day because this is a lot. But this is all about this dog because I just think this dog's hilarious. Like, no one knows these women are going on this windmill. No one's really paying attention to her. They don't care. But the dog's like, hey, this is fun. I'm going to jump up and try to see what I could do. And this is, again, in that blurred line phase. These are trees I took. And then a sky or more trees I took somewhere else, and just kept blending the different imagery together. So I do use stock images. I would love to have mountains, but there's not mountains where I live. I would love to have birch trees. I don't always have that around me. So if I don't have it, I'll go look for it. But if I have it, I'll grab what I have. That's a model. That's the model of that other painting too, where it was like the flowers and the blue, and she was just cropped her body. That's what she was wearing on top. Any other questions? Thank you. I have something. Here we are. Where did I put them? Okay, I have I have 2 1-month subscriptions to try Luminar and 1 1 year. So, this is going to be the first person to raise their hand. Yeah, you have to look for me. They win. Okay. Well, you don't know the question yet. I know, you're pretty smart. Name one of my inspirations. Who's someone who inspires me? Yes. You already said this, so you can't. What's one of your inspirations? Yes. Perfect. And then the 1 year, tell me something you're going to do because you saw this that you're going to add to your work going forward, or add to your. Oh. Yes. Yeah, see, there you go. Good job. Thank you for having me, everyone.
Carly, I think I speak for all of us when I say that was just amazing and a lot of stuff to think about.
Good.
And we are hoping you move back to Cleveland area and maybe have you back again.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So everyone else, thanks for the evening. Be very safe New Year's Eve, please. Like to see you all back at some point.